So in this video, we're going to talk about social contract theory, which is another moral theory. So roughly speaking, social contract theory says that actions are morally right just because they are permitted by rules that free, equal, and rational people would agree to live by, on the condition that others obey these rules as well. So as a social contract theorist, what you would want to think about, you would want to ask yourself, this rule that I'm about to follow, would this be a rule that rational people would follow if they were in a situation of freedom and equality? If it was, then that's a moral rule. But if it's not, then that would not be a moral rule. So what might social contract theory say about a trolley problem? A contract theorist might answer, pull the lever or not, according to what the rational members of your society have agreed is reasonable for you to do. So this doesn't give a particular answer, but we can sort of reason our way to one. So if you're a social contract theorist and you have some familiarity with the laws of your society, you could stand at the lever and ask yourself, what should I do? What would the people of my society say that I should do under a reasonable agreement? Now it seems like there would be a reasonable agreement that you shouldn't kill people. So maybe pulling the lever and killing the one is breaking that agreement. Though a reasonable society probably would also agree that it's totally understandable if you want to rescue people. So if you push the lever and rescue the 5, that also seems reasonable as well. It's not totally clear which one would be the better option, but it seems like a social contract theorist would have the ability to understand, because they're attempting to think about what's reasonable. They would understand both choices. Now, you could also run this experiment as well. You could ask yourself something like, what would I want if I were in this situation? If I were one of the 6 people? This is a running a hypothetical that's called that's often called the original position, or the veil of ignorance. The idea is, what society would you want if you didn't know which one of the people in this situation you would be? So you wake up and you're one of 7 choices. There's a 1 in 7 chance that you're the person alone on the track. There's a 1 in 7 chance that you're the one pulling the lever. There's a 5 in 7 chance that you're on the track with the 5 other people. So what would you want the moral rules to be, knowing that you don't know without the knowledge, because that's why it's called the veil of ignorance, without the knowledge of who you're going to end up being in this situation? So the answer to that seems like most people should probably say that rescuing the 5 is the correct rule, because 5 out of 7 times you would end up being one of those 5, right? So if you take that principle seriously, then you might, even though you understand you don't want a society that just kills people willy-nilly, you do understand that you'd prefer a society that saves more people, because you're probably going to be one of those more people, not one of the less people, if that makes sense. So that could be a more abstracted a more abstracted answer to the trolley problem from behind the veil of ignorance. So what are some advantages to the social contract theory? So one of the advantages is that you give up some freedoms, but you gain many advantages of cooperation. So basically, everyone in society cooperates with you, and you get all the benefits from that. You don't have people attacking you randomly. You don't have all of the possibilities that could happen if people in society weren't cooperating with each other. Social contract theory also explains and justifies basic moral rules. So we give an account which is based on a social agreement of where those rules come from. It also explains the objectivity of morality. So we can say there is an objective thing to say about morality because it's based in the objectivity of rationality and rational agreement. The theory also explains why it's sometimes acceptable to break moral rules. Those rules are designed for cooperative living, but when cooperation collapses, the point of morality disappears. So if you were, let's say, stranded on an island, and there was nothing to eat, and the only other person there, there was only one other person there, would you be justified in basically cannibalizing them in order to live? Well, in that situation, it's really either you or the other person. The cooperation, the possibility of cooperation has broken down entirely, unless maybe you could find some food. But then, until you find some food, there really is no chance of cooperation because it's a zero-sum game who is going to live and who is going to die. And the laws of society don't apply because you're stranded in this situation. So really, there's no binding agreement anymore because the conditions of cooperation don't exist anymore. And that seems in line with some of our intuitions because it seems like we think that, yeah, it is reasonable in these exceptional type emergency cases. It seems reasonable to break the rules precisely because they are these exceptional emergency cases where the benefits of cooperation have disappeared. So one of the core benefits of the social contract theory is that it offers an explanation to what's called the prisoner's dilemma. So the prisoner's dilemma is a very specific game in game theory. And the idea is there are two players. We can call them Al and Bob, because that's what our textbook author calls them. We call them Al and Bob, and they're being interrogated by the police for a crime. They can do one of two things. They can cooperate. They can cooperate with each other, which means both Al and Bob don't say anything to the police. Or they can betray each other, which means they say something to the police. If they both cooperate with each other, then they both get 2 years in prison. If one of them betrays the other, then they get 0 years in prison, but the other gets 6. If they both betray, then they each get 4 years, adding up to 8 total. So the best thing for the community in this situation is actually to cooperate, because if they cooperate, then they both get 2 years, which together is only 4 years. If one of them betrays, then the other gets 6, and if both of them betray, then they together get 8. So the best thing for the community is to cooperate. But actually, the best thing for each individual is to betray. If I'm Al and Bob cooperates with me, I can choose either to cooperate or betray him. The best answer is, for me, is to betray him because I get 0 years rather than 2. But let's say that Bob is going to betray me. So if Bob is going to betray me and I have to decide cooperate or betray, then I should betray, because 4 is less than 6. So I would only get 4 years if we both betray, and I would get, which is 4 is less than 6, right? So in both cases, it's better for me to betray, even though it's better for society, for everybody to cooperate. So that's the nature of the problem. The nature of the problem is that basically there's a disconnect between what's rationally best for me to do and what's rationally best for society to do. And the idea is that social contract theory offers a solution to this. Everybody has to give up what they want to do selfishly, what's rationally good for them selfishly. They have to give that up for the community, because if they do give it up for the community, then it's the best outcome, actually. So social contract theory claims to explain and justify the origin of morality as solving these kinds of coordination problems like the prisoner's dilemma. That's an advantage of social contract theory. So what are some disadvantages of the theory? Well, it seems like it requires us to give up freedom to attack and kill others, to cheat and lie to them, to beat and threaten them, and take from them whatever we can. So this is a freedom that we have if we just do what we want to do, right? And do whatever is possible for us to do. But so giving up that freedom, giving up the freedom to act however we want, is something we have to sacrifice when we sign up for social contract theory. We can't just do whatever we want anymore, and that's a disadvantage, right? But in fact, it's also an advantage because we're giving that up. We're giving that up, but at the same time, others are giving it up. So then others don't get to do it to us. So we don't get attacked and killed and cheated and lied and beaten and threatened. We don't get that because we don't do it to others. So that disadvantage also comes with an advantage, right? It's the price you're paying for peace and stability. What's another disadvantage? Well, social contract theory requires that we need a powerful person or group who threatens everyone, and enforces the rules that we've set up. So some of the thinkers refer to this as the Leviathan, but essentially it's a government, and this is the reason we have to have a government that punishes people who break the rules, is because the only way to enforce that contract between people is to have a consequence for the individuals that violate it. So in that way, we have a disadvantage because we have to set up this powerful group or powerful person. But at the same time, it's a necessary feature to do that.